Aloha, everyone. How's it going? This is Zane Schweitzer here, ocean advocate, world champion waterman, and Starboard ambassador. And today we're talking about the evolution of boards and specifically Ecoboards. And one of the best places to start that I thought would be good to bring up is a little bit of a brief history and background of my family. I've been really fortunate to be surrounded by some amazing influences. My father's an 18-time world champion windsurfer. He met my mother competing windsurfing and in the ocean. And my grandfather is the inventor of windsurfing. And hearing stories of my grandfather in his early days of being board builders back when boards were eco boards, there was no other one. Things had a quick change, and it really started with a group of passionate and collaborative friends that wanted to make these sports better and that wanted to have more fun on the ocean. And Grubby Clark ended up revolutionizing the world of board sports on the ocean as we know it with the rotor molded technology. And this is really when the entire world transitioned from eco boards built from natural materials into materials that were better, that allowed for more innovation and performance and a lot of different changes that allowed athletes to do amazing things. And of course, that's what we all want to do. But there is a little bit of a shift shortly after, which was interesting because now we're starting to see things come full circle back to more eco-innovative materials. And that was triggered because our awareness of not only the health concerns for the people building these boards and working with these materials, but also for the devastation repercussions of how it was affecting our natural environments and the oceans, what we all love most and our driving passion behind these innovations and the work we all do. So on our board today, we have some amazing eco-innovators that have been able to not only crack the code on boards that are more eco-innovative, more performance-based, but most importantly, these boards are healthier for the workers, for everyone around them, and as well for our oceans. So as you guys may know already, one of the greatest factors that we have to fight against is ocean acidification. And every chance we can to innovate materials and our power of our dollar or our power of choice to avoid getting excess atmosphere gases into our atmosphere to minimize ocean acidification. This means more time on the water, not only for our generations, but generations in front of us. And so I'm really excited to hear from everyone on this board. And we have some really exciting open source knowledge that guys like Starboard, Earth Technologies, Sustainable Surf, and more has been able to share with the world. This isn't a competition. Of course, we're all striving for having the best possible gear. And I know for a fact with Starboard, our goal is to not only have the best boards, but to have the best boards for the oceans and for our planet. So maybe with this note, we could throw it right off to our groups at Starboard and Earth Tech. Ryan, Tasmin, do you guys want to jump in and share a little bit about how you guys have cracked the code with your process and your building and how it's creating a positive ripple effect in our network and our community?
I will say Tasmin, ladies first, take it away.
Thank you, Aaron, and cheers, Zane, for that. Awesome. So quick introduction. I'm Tasmin, the environmental manager at Starboard. And yeah, I think the place to start here is, of course, when Starboard worked with Sustainable Surf to get this the Ecoboard level. We got the gold Ecoboard, the first one, which was quite awesome. So this means we were using materials that were more sustainably sourced, using bio-resins, and everything that we use within our boards are shared everywhere. We want everyone to follow what we're doing. We want to learn from other people. Like, if we don't share this knowledge, we're not going to be able to combat this issue as quick as we need to. Like, it needs to be sorted like years ago, but we need to work on it right now. Like, one of the things that Starboard have been working on lately is this ingredients tag here. So you'll be able to see exactly what materials are in your board, whether it's virgin materials, recycled materials, whether it's the fishing net fins that we're using, anything like that. You'll be able to see exactly what's in there, and hopefully other people will be able to replicate that and use these materials as well. A super exciting thing that we're looking at is the cradle to cradle life. Like, what do we do at the end of life of these boards? Like, we all know we can repair boards, we can upcycle them into like tables and chairs, but what do we do at the end when we can't fix them? So I know that in the industry right now, we are personally working on using a resin that we can place on the boards, that at the end of the board's life, we can put it into a solution and then de-layer each of these layers of the boards and get the materials back and use them again. Therefore, using those materials to like either patch up a board or make a new board. Like, we want everybody to be doing the same. We all have a responsibility. We're all using resources. We all need to share and replenish what we've been using, for sure. But yeah, Ryan, I'm sure you've got much more to add there too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, we're basically on a par with you guys. And another person that's on this panel is who I consider a legend. The Banatao brothers, they invented this resin that we're talking about. They were the start, and it pretty much kickstarted the Ecoboard movement because bioepoxy was not invented until these geniuses came along. And I was lucky enough to be a guinea pig early on, and just, you know, I had a poly background. I made boards the traditional way. I probably took years off my life in the process, but fast forward to a few years back, I realized, you know, Ecoboards are great, but they're still very wasteful. And shout out to Sustainable Surf. They did an audit and found out the sheer waste volume of traditional boards was double the weight of the finished product is what we were looking at. So I set aside to create what we call now the Zero Waste Initiative. And we have the first zero landfill manufacturing factory. And so we've been able to reduce that waste exponentially, and we actually found out ways to upcycle it. And again, I didn't patent any of this, it's open source. We're still the only factory really doing it domestically, and it starts with a high density plastic shredder, and we categorize all the waste streams, densify our waste, and then upcycle it into usable products. So all of our waste from the boards goes into lifestyle products. We're making skateboards now, and we can actually shred entire boards in here. So we really don't have, well, we have lots of waste, but it doesn't leave the building. So that's been really fun. And yeah, we're kind of trying to push the bar even further with what we're doing. And it's really cool to see what the Banatao brothers have up their sleeves, and as they continue to do crazy things. I shout out to them because I can't even wrap my head around inventing something like that.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I think we need crazy people like Ryan to push us too. I mean, I think that's always been a great part about working with people like Ryan and Starboard and innovative companies that are willing to take risks and do things differently for the environment, right? I mean, I don't know about legends, but me and my brother, we founded two companies. We along with Sustainable Surf, launched kind of the whole idea of using bio-based resins. So, you know, these, just like Zane was saying, you know, boards started as Ecoboards. They made them out of wood, right? That's what they had. You know, our background's chemistry and material science. So when we were looking at the chemistries and the materials that were out there, you could make these things with sustainable materials. It's just the world got addicted to cheap petroleum start materials, and so, you know, it took us banging on the doors of people and trying to come up with new things and new ways to do stuff to kind of resurrect this idea that, you know, using bio-based materials and using chemistries that have been invented forever, but getting away from the idea that everything just needs to be cheap and made out of petroleum was kind of where we started, right? And again, guys like Ryan and a lot of surfboard builders grabbed onto that idea, and again with Brett and Sustainable Surf guys really pushing the limit, getting the marketing information out there. It grew and grew and grew, and I think today you look out there, there's a tons of sustainable surf Ecoboards in the market. So, and pushing it to the next limit, right? Which is this idea of a resin because that you can break down at the end of life, because we can use sustainable materials like bio-based materials, but at the end of the day, we're still creating something that will potentially end up in the garbage in the landfill, right? So trying to close that loop, and then my brother and I have been working on kind of that next level, which is what do you do with these things at the end of their life, and how do you really make something circular in terms of its use as a material?
Yeah, thanks everyone. Brett here from Sustainable Surf. So yeah, as Desi was saying, and Ryan was hinting to, we launched the Ecoboard project back in 2012 with this idea of, as Zane kicked off, like, how did we end up with these surfboards that were, in some ways had a single lifespan, made out of toxic materials? How did we get to this stage? And then how do we recapture the performance that is embedded in these new products with these new materials, and start to produce those surfboards, stand-up paddleboards, kiteboards, whatever they are, in ways that reflect the way traditional boards were made, but still retaining those performance characteristics. And I think what's really cool is, at the start it was basically Desi and his brother Ryan and some really other like small committed crew that were really trying to push these things. And then Starboard came in. We've got brands like Firewire, which make tens of thousands of surfboards every year. Channel Islands in California, there's and it's now spread to this global movement of people that are using these materials, not just because they want an eco rating like the Ecoboard project, and not just because they want to feel good about the environment. They're using these materials because they perform, and because surfers and people who love the ocean are asking for these products that have a lesser impact. And so I think what we've kind of reached this tipping point where you now got people like Ryan and Starboard in Thailand and these other factories all around the world that they're making eco boards on a day-to-day basis, and now looking at where can I take this thing. So there's people like Ryan doing amazing things, finding new uses for waste materials. And there's this huge movement right now to start using alternate materials. So there's cork surfboards out there that perform incredibly well. There's lots of people who are re-engineering wood to work in surfboards. I'd love to hear what other innovations people are seeing out there.
Now it kind of seems like it's a consistent theme we're seeing there with pioneers on a collaborative level, right? None of this would be possible if it wasn't for the Desis, if it wasn't for the Ryans, the Michael and Bretts, right? And as a rider, as an athlete riding these boards, I'm really impressed to know that not only is this something that's generally a new process and something that shapers have to, in a sense, relearn their process. And this seems to be maybe one of the greatest challenges, is getting more people to adapt their process and adapt their use of materials, because they are working. And I could tell you that as a world champion stand-up paddler, windsurfer, and all the boards I ride, whether it's at Jaws on 50-foot plus waves, or whether it's on the world tour for sup surfing, all of my boards are Ecoboards. And I'm not doing that because it's a trend and because it's cool. I'm doing that because we asked for it, because we wanted to not only have boards that are performing better, but that are better for us, the people who are working with the boards, the people who are building these boards. So not only is it healthier for our environment, but it's better for the workers. It's better for everyone involved, right? And so I really am so honored to be able to talk with you guys, because you guys are the early pioneers in this. And it's a movement that we're seeing catch like wildfire. And the materials and the process is only getting better. And so we're barely scratching the surface on what's possible. But what needs to stay possible is our appeal to the entire global market. And I think that right there, if I were to rewind time again back to the days my grandfather and Tom Moray and Grubby Clark and Hobie Alter were all there on the beach, you know, trying to just have more fun, more days on the water. You know, they were pioneers, and they had to create a new process. And what was super exciting for them, and for my grandfather, of course, inventing windsurfing, and Hobie Alter bringing about the Hobie Cat, was the access to production with a new material, right? This rotor molded material. But now we're starting to see these same implications of production being brought with these new eco-innovative materials. And so that's something that amazes me, is we could still have the appeal, hopefully, for this consumerism that we all are surrounded by, but hopefully we are moving more towards the broader market through this open source knowledge that you guys are all sharing, right? And we're encouraging everybody to jump on board with these Ecoboard movement. And not only that, but to embrace our power of choice to uplift our community and our environment. Because at the end of the day, every company in our surf industry and our water sports industry is taking advantage of our ocean and our natural environment. And we need to create that mind shift now for everybody that has a piece of that, to embrace their power of choice, to adapt their process, and to adopt these new eco-innovative materials.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one thing that we've seen as materials providers, not just in surf, is that especially action sports, people that are enjoying the outdoors, you know, it's you know, at the very front of their thought process when they're buying something, right? And educating people about, you know, what it is they're buying. You know, Tasmin touched on their new label coming out. You know, for us, we're always pushing information around things like life cycle analysis and greenhouse gas emissions, and why, you know, our materials have some true environmental benefit. But I mean, I think that's definitely today, if I have to look at where the work is, it's this education process, right? Because I think a lot of people do think sometimes you're going to lose performance if something is eco-friendly. But, you know, I think the main thing that you know, us as a community need to do is continue to educate people around, you know, why they're what they're buying, why, you know, why it's better, and that, you know, they should make the choice to choose those products, right?
I totally agree with you there, Desi. Like, I think there's such a disconnect with consumers and like where things come from, that if we do educate, we do explain again, like, remember where this comes from. This comes from here. This is putting resources from here. It's destructing this like land or the ocean or whichever. I think it's like unlearning the disconnect and then educating like how we care, how we reduce that impact initially through what all of us are doing at our companies, like researching to bring that to the forward thought to make more companies do it. And then from there, we can, once we've reduced our impact as much as possible, and then we can start doing things like offsetting through like what we do is planting mangroves, or then retrieving waste from the shorelines, what we do as well. But first, before anything, we need to reduce it. Like, we have the responsibility, we are the ones who are producing these boards. We have to design better, we have to produce better for all of that.
And in many ways, it's to be accountable, right? We can't be embarrassed to be accountable for our actions. And for, you know, my dad has always told me that with every action, there's a reaction. And so I truly believe that we have to be proud of our power of choice, and we have to be accountable for the repercussions of each of our choices. And in many ways, materials is the start, right? And adapting the process to be implemented in production is a huge hurdle to get over as well. But now, as you mentioned, Tasmin, we're taking it a step further, and we're starting to realize that if we want this natural environment to be enjoyed for generations to come, we can't just find a better way to produce. We have to actually start to, in many ways, I'm going to use Parlay and Starboard's AIR method. We need to avoid, intercept, and redesign. And we could avoid what comes in and out of our garage and our house, right? We have the power of choice as a consumer on which boards to purchase. And more people are now making the choice to have and ride Ecoboards for not only the reasons that they're better, most professionals in our world are starting to use them, but they have a better repercussion on our environment. Now, intercepting, what does that mean, right? Are we going and catching every water bottle that flows out the stream into the ocean? Not necessarily, but it's a storytelling process that is key in the interception, right? People like Starboard, who are actually removing 1 kilo of plastic from our beaches and oceans with every product sold, but then taking it a step further and actually planting and reforesting sea trees that will actually in the long run, actually in a sense, take away the negative actions that we've caused to our natural environments, right? And then to redesign. This is what we've been talking about, right? And that's the fun part for the pioneers and the creators that are actually building these boards. And I know Ryan has a hell of a lot of fun with that, you know, because we have these people that are finding new ways to design boards, and it's still happening, right? But we need to come full circle and embrace every layer of it, right? In our Hawaiian culture, we have this sense of being accountable for each layer of every lesson, of every action, of every job. And there's not just a direct action. There's a repercussion on how it affects the entire community, the whole world. And some of you guys may have heard the Ahupua'a system, from the mountains to the seas, or from the heavens to the horizons. And you could learn more about this through our Deep Blue Life documentary that Sustainable Surf and Starboard created, to give you a better idea of the many layers of connectivity that our natural environment has, and how our power of choice creates a reaction on every layer of this natural environment, but as well on each layer of our community, whether it be at home, in the office, in our schools. And so it's exciting times. It really is. And it's really cool to see us coming back full circle, adopting these materials that were once used, but making them work better through new processes.
I totally agree there, Zane. Also, sorry, Brett. I think also a way that we can redesign is for the methods of production. So, like, for example, from doing our life cycle assessment, we see that the most CO2 emissions come from the production, the electricity production. So what we've been doing is pressuring our factories to start using more renewable energy. So we've had some great feedback from that, and it's really good that hopefully we'll be reducing that CO2 footprint massively using renewables. So I think design could be, as you said, so many different layers and from everywhere. So we just need to analyze and intercept and redesign in every way possible.
Yeah. I think that's so true, Tasmin. And then like bringing that down to a personal level. So for Sustainable Surf, like the Ecoboard project, you know, it's a labeling program and an educational program. But at its core, what it's about is that showing people that, you know, you can choose, you know, you can choose a more sustainable surfboard, you know, and it's going to perform at or better than the previous surfboard that you have. And that same choice can be those same choices can be reflected through, you know, all other aspects of your life. So whether it's, you know, choosing to use fossil fuels to power your home, or choosing renewable, you know, choosing to, you know, drive yourself to the beach to go surfing, or choosing to travel to the beach, you know, with a couple of friends and, you know, combine your carbon emissions into one trip. So it's really about like, you know, finding these kind of little ways, you know, just like Ryan he's going from, you know, using resin that's more sustainable, you know, using blanks that are more sustainable. Now he's, you know, upcycling blanks into new surfboards, and now it's coming full circle to, you know, what's this next innovation is like taking waste and creating like functioning, desirable products out of it. Where do you see it going, Ryan?
Well, tackling our waste was a huge process. It took me 3 years to figure that out. And now I pretty much get daily messages about, can you take my waste? Can you take my old board? Can you take my soft top? So the latest thing we've been trying to do is turn other people's trash to slash, right? And figuring out a way to upcycle I call it the COVID problem, right? We had a baby boom with all these new surfers, with everyone wanting to be outside because we're all cooped up. And soft tops are some of the worst made products. They're completely waterlogged because they're never watertight. And so we've been able to literally take other people's trash and turn it into boards. And so we're trying to lead by example. And what I've kind of coined is the board recycling deposit program. Just like you take plastic cans and bottles, you take them back, you turn them in, you get money. We give people a deposit towards anything in our shop if they bring an old dilapidated soft top in, and we will dispose of it, and none of it goes in the landfill. We can chuck the core or keep the core, turn it and glue it into new blanks, and then the skin is going in the shredder. But just try and lead by example. I'd like, you know, to see where this is a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. I'm really excited. And again, education is the key word I think we've all said in this. We just we have to force the consumers to make the demand, right, on the retail side. And so it's our job to inform and educate everyone.
And that's a huge part of what we're doing right here for Sea Change on H2O, is trying to inspire everyone watching to embrace their power of choice, to live a deep blue life. And I think right now is a good time for us to leave you guys with a challenge. How can you guys be more eco-innovative at home, on the water, in your school? How can you guys start to embrace and be proud of your power of choice, knowing that it's uplifting the environment and our oceans? We don't want to contribute to the toppling of our society, of our natural environments. And so hopefully you guys have felt inspired by these amazing people on our board. I know I am. Every time I have a chance to chat and meet with each and every one of you guys, I feel charged up. And I hope you all feel charged up as well. So how can you guys make this world and our oceans a better place? Thank you guys for all joining.